Hey, welcome to our little show. Are you comfortable with the way Colton Tooley, that's the 19-year-old sophomore that opened fire on the UT campus last week, are you comfortable with the way he's being portrayed? I mean, absent anything else, all the media can do is go on what they're told, right? A Statesman headline at statesman.com says UT shooter recalled as smart, passionate. Classmate tells of band days help with schoolwork. His funeral was last night. Beyond that, it's amazing we know nothing more. Nothing more. I'm guessing some people have a problem with the way he's being portrayed. Would you invest in this company? If you sit back and said, I've got a little cash to put into something, I think I'll go here. Postal Service expects to lose $6 billion this year. That would be $6 billion this year. Now, the good news. The expectation, apparently, imagine sitting in this shareholders meeting. Listen, we had a great year. We were going to lose $7 billion, but instead we think we're going to lose around $6 billion. Well, yeah, that's up from $3 billion we lost last year. Okay. We doubled our losses from last year. But listen, everybody, it's less than $7 billion in a year, because that's the good news. It's reported that the Postal Service lost slightly less, don't know how slight, less than $7 billion they were expecting. Whew. Okay, that thing is turning around now. I think we all feel better about that. Good news. Thanks for the good news. All right, phone numbers. You'll need them. 836-0590. Toll free is 877-590-KLBJ. Can you listen online? More than likely, yes. Go to 590KLBJ.com. Click on that icon and put your head down. You can do that chat box thing as well. Go to 590KLBJ.com. Click on the OLS chat box, whatever that is. You will see some preppy pictures, and you are in. If you would like to download the show, that's possible. Go to 590KLBJ.com. There is a podcast there, and more than likely it is free. You can also download the show via iTunes, I'm told, on your iPhone as well, and who knows? Somewhere, somehow, there could be a phone app out there. At some point last week, I think, in talking about the Texas-Oklahoma game, I believe I said the less dumb team will win. All people got bent out of shape. The face painters got bent out of shape. Wait a minute. Isn't there any more to it than that, Jeff? No, not really. Because they're pretty much the same, although the better team won on Saturday. They both have gaping holes. But the team that's dumber than the other one loses. At one point, when the ball's rolling on the ground late in the game, it's just rolling around. I'm thinking, while the ball's on the ground, are you serious? Texas might win this game. I don't know how, but they might just win this game. And then it rolled out of bounds, and then they fumbled the punt, and the rest was history. So the less dumb team, although the team that won was trying to be really, really dumb late in the game. I mean, you would be hard-pressed to come up with more idiotic maneuvers than that. But then another team, Texas, made another huge mistake, and that was it. So the less dumb team won. Rick Perry. Oh, this is the end of him. That's all over now. This election is changing. The American Statesman editorial board endorsed the man with the ears, Bill White. Why did they endorse him? Because he's not Rick Perry? Because he hasn't been governor for 60 years? That's about it. It just says time for a change. Is that going to matter? Of course not. Nothing is going to change your mind. Nothing matters. There was a debate over the weekend. Did you catch that one? No, you didn't? Okay. That's not going to matter either. Even the fact that the Dallas Morning News did a report today It said an investigation by the Dallas Morning News found that more than $16 million from the Emerging Technology Fund. Now, this is, and I know you people like this, you like it, so there is no arguing this. No one's going to talk you out of it because you seem to believe this is the way to go with taxpayer money. Whether it's racetracks or tech funds or startup businesses, it's what you like. But it says this emerging fund gives tax dollars to promising, quote, high-tech startups. That, of course, I guess is different than the enterprise fund that gives taxpayer money to other businesses. But we can't argue that. You won't change your mind. You think it's a good idea. But the Morning News found that $16 million from the Emerging Fund Technology, or the Emerging Technology Fund, had been awarded to companies with investors or officers who are large campaign donors to Rick Perry. No way. It doesn't work that way, does it? That's a shock. That can't be. I'm sure Rick Perry's alone in that kind of practice. But it's all over. That's it. The Statesman has endorsed Bill White. He even has an ad, anybody catch this, where he makes fun of his ears. Now, granted, you're going to fall asleep in the first 15 seconds because it's that very light guitar sound, and then he's trying to talk and I guess trying to sound energetic. But at one point during his ad, he even makes reference to his big ears.
Jeff Ward on News Radio 590 KLBJ.
You've heard the news report a few minutes ago. The shooting, 16-year-old was killed coming out of the, what was it again, a Big Lots store in South Austin. Now the police are saying the 3 teenagers involved in the burglary. My gosh, if you're going to go this far, you're going to burglarize, no offense, but Big Lots? They apparently, or at least the cops are saying, these 3 teenage guys broke into a storage unit to steal the guns and then broke into a Big Lots, allegedly. And one of them, a 16-year-old, was coming out the back, and the cops say pointed a gun at them. He was shot and killed. That's a mess. Top to bottom. A 19-year-old, a 15-year-old, and a 16-year-old was killed. Breaking into a Big Lots. All right, 836-0590, toll-free 877-590-KLBJ. Albert, you're on KLBJ.
What's up, Jeff?
Doing a radio show.
Okay, a real shooting is what happened at Big Lots. When I turn on the TV and they say UT shooting, that's not a shooting. Shots fired, maybe. But it looks like after they found out that this kid really just wanted attention and decided to shoot and kill himself. I mean, if he really wanted to shoot somebody, he would have shot somebody because there's so many students at that area at that time just walking out anywhere. You could just reach out and hit somebody with the rifle.
Yes.
But the way they called it a shooting, it's not a shooting. Who did he shoot? Nobody. Went up to a classroom and he shot himself in the head.
Are we arguing whether or not this is a verb?
I hate to say it, yes. Well, because when you call a school shooting, it's a shooting. You shoot somebody. Somebody's at the end of that.
But he did shoot. I mean, I'm not. I don't know what our argument
Usually
is.
that's, I just think the way the media does is that you want to exacerbate it so you can get a little bit of national attention. You're going to call it a university shooting because, and this just wasn't a big enough story.
Wait. I'm not, what is your point? Because he did shoot. I believe, what is it, anywhere between 12 and 15 times?
I don't know the last time anybody in the news, especially the news, because you're a journalist and you put words together and you search.
I'm a talk show host, so
I'm not saying you. I mean, I said the media.
Okay,
you are media. I don't know.
Yeah,
but I'm talking about KView, Fox News, stuff like that. When you turn it on, you start listening. School shooting at school, so on and so forth. Somebody is shot after that.
Okay, Albert, what exactly?
Well, I don't think his call it shots fired and then a suicide or something. I'm not giving this kid any. I don't so far feel sorry for this kid because any kid who does something like that, well, he's a moron. But they turned it into more like they wanted to make it into almost like a terrorist deal. It was just a kid who wanted some attention and he shot himself. Man, he was going to do that anyway, but he didn't shoot anybody. It's more they made it sound more like it was going to be another university shooting, and it wasn't. I mean.
Okay,
I'm sorry. It just...
Yeah, but I don't know what you would say when there's a guy with a ski mask on walking down 21st Street with an AK-47 or whatever
and he walked past all these students, and they asked these students, he walked right past us.
I realize that.
Walked into a building, went upstairs, and shot himself.
Yes, and that is not... Are you saying that wasn't reported?
No, I'm saying they called it a university shooting. When it comes out, when you start watching it on CNN, all of a sudden a university shooting, it just call it shots fired, suicide.
Yes, sir. Well, when I asked the question about how he's being portrayed, that's not exactly, arguing how the verb is going to be used seems a little silly. If you're accusing all of us, myself included, by the way, because I went on the air that morning to tell people where this was and give people an idea where he would be on campus and things like that, it is kind of a big deal when somebody puts on a ski mask and walks down the street. At the time, we didn't know he hadn't shot anybody. We didn't know a heck of a lot, except there was someone with a gun walking down the street shooting. Didn't say he shot someone, but he was shooting. How, even though it's pretty obvious after everything is said and done, he obviously didn't want to hit anybody, but he was shooting. And in the middle of the largest campus in the United States, that's a pretty big deal. Now, I asked the question about how he's being portrayed. Compassionate, blah, blah, blah. I'm like a lot of people. I'm not real comfortable with this. And it's almost disturbing that we haven't learned more because there has to be a trail. There has to be. So I'm like some of you, I kind of feel like this guy was able to terrorize. Do we want to argue that too? I think if you ask anybody that was around there, I think they would claim they were terrorized by a guy with a ski mask on and a gun pointed at them. But these people who were terrorized, I could understand why they wouldn't feel too comfortable that this is really about a nice guy who just went off the tracks. Unfortunately, we haven't heard any more. So the only thing that anybody's going by, if you want to blame the media, the only thing they can go by is what they're being told. And that's weird. The Postal Service. I know you don't care about the money. Apparently few people do. $6 billion in losses this year, and the great news for everyone, that's slightly less reportedly than the $7 billion they were expecting. Man, you have to go pretty deep in your business textbooks to see if that's a bad idea, huh? Man, you have to get 12 chapters in to look at that graph and see that's not a great idea. Only someone with an MBA could figure this one out. All right, 836-0590. That's 836-0590. Toll free 877-590-KLBJ. It is Steve. You're on KLBJ.
Hey, Jeff. How are you?
Do you care, Steve?
Not really. I really could care less.
All right, I'm fine.
Yeah, that's okay. But anyway, I'm talking about that the Big Lots shooting. And I know last week I tried to call, but I was in my car and I couldn't get through to you.
What were you going to say, Steve?
What was I going to say?
Yes.
I was going to say that you said the poor boy, 16-year-old, got killed because he went and burglarized the Big Lots. And Jeff, do you own a gun, by the way?
How do you know? Where did you get that I said the poor boy? Do you know that?
Well, Jeff. Okay.
Okay, but don't do this. This is stupid. Don't say that I said. Okay.
Okay. All right. Well, look, you can say things without saying the thing. What you did was say that here's a guy that got the death penalty for burglarizing a big lot.
That is correct.
Okay, that you did say that.
Do you disagree with that?
You did say that. But what you failed to say is, but Jeff, what you failed to say is that 16-year-old got the death penalty because he came out of the big lot doing a burglary with some other people and was armed with a gun.
No,
so
I didn't fail to say that.
You do have a bias.
Okay, that's stupid. What I said was this is dumb. What I said was he got the death penalty for robbing a Big Lot store. The police say, as I repeated over and over again, and to the point that I read both stories from the police, saying that the police say he pointed a gun at them. That's exactly what I said. So this is stupid.
Jeff, well, I don't know. You need to go over that again. First of all, he didn't rob the Big Lot. He burglarized the Big Lot store. That's what he did.
Okay.
He burglarized it. He didn't rob it. Rob it means that he faced someone and took money from them.
What is the point,
Steve? Towards all these shootings that happen in Austin. This guy was 16 years old. He's an adult, Jeff. He's an adult.
No, he's not, Steve.
According to the law. Yes, he is. He's 16 years old. He could be charged as an adult. He got killed not because he burglarized a Big Lot store. It's because he had a gun coming out of the Big Lot store.
Yes.
And you're always very suspicious when, with the cameras.
Yes.
Let's hope we have these cameras that show him raising the gun, and you start putting that in people's mind, and you make it like it was just a guy, that everybody loved, and he came out of the back of the Big Lot store.
I never said anybody loved him. I didn't say he was a little guy. I didn't say.
Jeff, you have to understand.
Well, I tell you what, Steve, that I'm sorry to get inside your mind and influence you so severely.
What is wrong with you psychotic people?
Making your drive home a little easier. You're listening to Jeff Ward on News Radio 590 KLBJ. Jeff Ward on News Radio 590 KLBJ.
The entire election, if all the other important issues of the day in the state of Texas didn't do it, the fact that the Statesman editorial board endorsed Bill White because, boy, he's not Rick Perry. That should change your focus. All right, phone number is 836-0590, toll-free 877-590-KLBJ. It's reported today, I realize people don't follow this stuff, sadly. Apple may surpass Exxon as the most valuable company in the world. That's a pretty good 8-year run, isn't it? When was it that Apple stock was in the single digits? It wasn't all that long ago. Probably in the mid-90s. And then when was the, gosh, you can't even, I this, I that. I'm running out of I's. The little MP3 player, it's the iPod. When was the iPod? 2001, Thomas tells me. Okay, late 2001. I think it was in October 2001. Huh. And now it's about to become the world's most valuable company. On the same day, I read a story that the iPhone is a dinosaur. That's amazing. All right, 836-0590, toll-free 877-590-KLBJ. Chris, you're on KLBJ.
Well, Jeff, I realize this is kind of a pedestrian question compared to your heavy topics of the day, but in the Texas OU game, you remember late in the game when Texas did that kickoff and OU lined up as an offside kick?
Yes, sir.
Now, as that ball rolled down the field, it was still a live ball, correct?
That is, once it goes past 10 yards, yes.
Okay, when the OU player picked it up, it was as if the Texas players just kind of gave up and ran off the field. Why couldn't somebody
tackle him,
knock the crap out of him and try to separate the ball?
Okay, I'm a little bit surprised the broadcast didn't address that, but they're not big on rules. The difference is if he's making no attempt to return the ball out of the end zone, in college football, in the NFL, you have to down the ball. You have to down it. You have to take a knee. In college, you do not. If you make no attempt to bring it out, they'll blow it dead there and put it at the 20.
Okay.
Yeah, that return guy, I tell you, I was kind of curious how people would react to that kind of kickoff. Whether or not people think they should have had a traditional onside kick, but I tell you, that guy that was a smart move in a game of dumb moves. That was pretty smart of that guy to wait for the ball and let it go into the end zone and then pick it up.
Now, had it not gone in the end zone, he would have had to cover it in some way.
He would have to cover
right?
it, yeah. And he was obviously he was dangerously close, but he was following it pretty closely. So that took some guts. I mean, that took some patience and guts for that guy to let it get to the end zone.
It did. You're right. And I thought the idea to kick it, although it didn't work, was a good idea too.
Well, yeah, I thought Mac Brown would get more criticism for that than he has, but I tell you what, it almost worked because Texas did. Now, they allowed Oklahoma to have a big run, but Texas did hold Oklahoma, and Oklahoma was forced to punt. Then Texas fumbled the punt. And I think his answer would be that's exactly what they wanted to come out of that, is hold Oklahoma, make them punt, they get their chance back. Then I think the next question would be, well, you had to get 8 points then. Why didn't you go ahead and go for the 8 earlier so you were then playing for only 3 then?
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
That makes sense to me, and you were dead on. The Tummer team lost.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. Thanks, Jeff.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I found the Texas strategy there. See, I just like strategy. Football is science to me. I just found that very interesting. And I think it almost worked. It almost worked. I'm not quite sure how Texas was in the game at that point. I really can't even figure that one out. But they were. Imagine that Texas won. Now, people would be happy and everything, but you'd go, seriously? Did Texas just win that game? They gave up 140 yards in the first 7 minutes of the game, and they won? How is that? But, for all the mistakes Texas made throughout the game in the last 2 minutes, Oklahoma went psycho. It is George. You're on KLBJ.
Hey, Jeff, how goes it today?
It goes.
I just would like to correct the caller you had before the break.
Yes, sir.
One, you did not say poor boy. I was listening to the broadcast that entire day. And second, he was so quick to correct you and say that it was burglary, not a robbery. Well, yes, it was a robbery because burglary can only be committed in a dwelling. And it has to be at nighttime, which it was, but I don't believe Big Lots is a dwelling.
Yeah.
So he was wrong. I just thought I'd come to your aid. And,
well, I mean, I don't really... Well, thanks for that, I guess. I'm not quite sure what... He had a point. He wanted to get me on something. But I'm almost positive. Now, I took some calls that day, and people did make comments, but some of those weren't mine. Some of them were mine, but I'd never said poor boy, and all I did was, as usual, I got a report here, and I said it was in front of me. I said, police say he pointed a gun at them. Earlier in the show, the report was he had fired shots. Right. Then when I got a note that said police say he didn't fire shots, I go, and I did make a comment about Big Lots. I mean, you're dumb enough, crazy enough to lose your life over Big Lots. He got the death penalty for Big Lots.
Right. Yeah, that's true.
But so I'm not quite sure what that guy or any other, I'm not sure what they're angry at me for.
I have no idea either.
Yeah. Oh, well. I think I said, this set some people off. I said, wow, a 16-year-old shot coming out of a Big Lots after police say he pointed a gun at them. This one's going to be controversial. Now, of course, many of you who want automatic black and white judgment, it will be. Now, the next question will be videotapes and things like that. But police say he had a hoodie on and pointed a gun at them. And apparently, the chief of police says the videotape backs that up. Hey, Dave, you're on KLBJ.
Hey, Jeff. In a seemingly, there seems to be a referendum going on against all incumbents. Why isn't Rick Perry part of that? Why don't the polls show that he is an incumbent and may be voted out.
Yeah. Let's see, in the last few years, the retention rate is close to, 85 to 90%, right?
Right, but not in Austin, right?
Right. That's right. So why is that, Dave?
Well, I'm amazed and shocked. Is it because he doesn't speak? Is it because he doesn't debate? Is it because he doesn't?
He's good at politics. Now I'm going to give the guy that. He's good at imagery. He's good at politics. So what is it?
I'm just seeing where every incumbent is scared to death, but he doesn't seem to be.
There's an R next to his name.
Well, but there's even some R's that are, people are kind of sick of what's going on in any situation. So, but I just think he's bulletproof, and I don't understand why.
Yeah. Let's see.
Great campaign managers, great PR guys.
I mean, I tell you how good he is at the imagery. I mean, if he was going to go down, a lot of people believed he was going to go down because of Kay Bailey Hutchison, but he successfully cut her off at the knees. Obliterated her. When she was, not that long ago, she had the most votes of any candidate in Texas. And he obliterated her. I tell you, his campaign is Bill Clinton-like in that they are masters at positioning statements that stick. To give you an example, if I say Volvo to you, you say safety. He has successfully, and you can argue this if you want, he has successfully positioned anybody that's not him as Washington the devil. He has. And if you hear me say positioning statements, that's exactly what I mean. It's no different. He does the same thing successfully. And I mean, there's several economic issues that I brought up on the show through the years, and you don't care. You don't react to it. I've even worked, and I'm not pro Bill White by any stretch, which of course many of you are going to automatically accuse me of. I personally think politicians suck, and I'm a political anarchist. But I think you can make very good comparisons between the Obama stimulus sellout and many of the Rick Perry stimulus sellouts. Phone number is 836-0590. That's 836-0590. Toll free 877-590-KLBJ. There's a story in Newsweek, and it says, Newsweek.com, it says, Sarah Palin says a new crop of conservative women will rise up to protect their cubs. All right, sounds pretty good. Really? Exactly how? Apparently there's Sarah Palin says there's a definition for the mama grizzly. A mama grizzly is a conservative woman with common sense. Someone who rises up to protect her children when she sees them endangered by bad policies. What policy? What does that mean, protect your children? In what way? I mean, that sounds nice. Of course, I guess the rest of us don't want to protect our children. Yes. So what policy is that? As someone with kids, I can raise the hand if you really talk about protecting children and policy. Why not stop the economic policies that bankrupt them, including Social Security? I challenge you to take that one on, Mama Grizzlies. Go ahead.
Pathetically condescending.
I dare you. Do it. Heck, that ought to be first on the list as a Mama Grizzly protecting your children. I dare anyone, Mama Grizzly or otherwise. Go ahead. Go there. Do it. Hey, Henley, you're on KLBJ.
Hey, Jeff. You know, I think Rick's is so bulletproof because we don't know why he's bulletproof. That's what makes him so bulletproof. All you really get out of him is a great haircut, some good photo ops, every now and then an adios mofo, and a funny campaign commercial like we just heard, and that's it.
Adios, mofo.
Yeah.
How do you attack that in Texas?
pretty tough. He's good at the imagery. That's what I'm saying.
Don't confuse the campaign with the facts, though.
No, that's right. But heck, we don't demand that.
No, of course not.
So.
No, but he looked great at the Tea Party rally when he put on the Remington hat.
That's right,
with the
man.
Camouflage.
That's right. There's you got an ad running right now. He looks like Clint Eastwood looking over the border.
That's right, and the accent comes out.
Yep.
Like you said, about 6 months before election.
That's right.
That accent comes out, and he's fishing, in the Gulf.
He has. There was this deal I talked about on the show the other day that he has. I mean, he really bucks the trend of female voters. He has over 50% of women would vote for him. He had more women voting for him than the two women he ran against during the primary. Now, why is that, Henley?
Well, the chicks like him because he's not very visible. And when he is, he's only there for a second, and then he's gone, and all you have is kind of a whimsical memory. You don't really remember anything he said because he didn't say anything.
Yeah.
There's no scandal. There's no bad issue. He's not always there. He's not. He doesn't get on the news and hog the camera.
Right.
Smart guy.
He can jab and duck.
That pretty much. I mean, if he was a boxer, be Muhammad Ali.
I don't know that that's necessarily a critic. Now that might be a little much, but I doubt if we expected to hear Rick Perry compared to Muhammad Ali today. Jared, you're on KLBJ.
Hey, Jeff.
Hey.
I was just calling. You were talking about Sarah Palin, what policy. I just think you can, whichever policy you want to pick out, you're talking about you have children. How far in debt are they right now?
Oh.
Tremendously in debt. They'll never be able to pay it off.
Yes.
Their health care is not going to be the same as we grew up with. They won't get to pick and choose what they want to do with health care. For the most part, the federal government's going to be in their back pocket every step of the way. I mean, I don't know. You name the policy. I think if I were comparing the Mama Grizzly or whatever, I don't exactly agree with that whole little deal, but I think it must hit a nerve.
No, there's no denying that. But what I'm saying is, I think it's more. I'm going to criticize us more than I'll do the same thing with Rick. We are the shallow ones. We are the ones who don't even investigate economic policy. We are the ones who just get emotional. And I think she's doing, it's probably a good strategy. Again, all politics is about is imagery. But call me biased here. I challenge anyone who wants to talk about economic policy who won't talk about Social Security. I think until you do that, you're a fraud. I mean, I do. I don't. And if you want to talk about if you want to talk about having kids and their future, you don't tackle that, you're a fraud. You're not into economic policy and economic policies for them. I don't know how you can gloss over that one. That's the 800-pound gorilla in their room. So I don't want to listen to anyone pretend to be out for some sort of substantial financial reform until they tackle that one.
Jeff Ward on News Radio 590 KLBJ.
The postgame show on Saturday night, 6 o'clock, I think we started. I said, in addition to, I think, I'm really proud of this line, the less dumb team will win. I like owning that one. But I said there's good news and bad news for Texas fans. The good news is you get a week off. I think that's still true. I don't know, though. I think an argument could be made they don't need a week off. But I said the bad news is their next beatdown is going to happen in Lincoln, Nebraska. It's an amazing streak to be in the top 25 for 160 weeks. I mean, that's impressive. But that star is fading fast. And I'm not even sure. I told you, and all of you get mad. I told you the Big 12 is not very good, but you get bent out of shape and wah. It's not. Oklahoma's going to be a very good team next year. And in spots, they're very, very good now. They're better than Texas, no doubt. But they've got some mental issues too. And apparently, they don't have a field goal kicker, which is still blowing my mind. They just won't kick. All right, you'll appreciate this. I don't think anybody's going to disagree with this top 10 list. I don't know if it's as high as they say, but there's a story in MSNBC Finance page, the 10 items with the greatest markups. Some of us consume about 8 of them.
Jeff Ward is brought to you by The Bugmaster. Call 250-1500 and thebugmaster.com.
Hey, welcome to our little show. Can't say for certain that it's accurate, but I don't know anybody that's going to disagree. And a lot of us do. Well, a lot of us use these products and services on a regular basis. I'm not even sure we apologize for it. So the finance section of MSNBC.com, they actually back it up with numbers, produced a list of the most ludicrous markups out there. And it's a top 10 list in order. You could probably rattle off 5 or 6 of them right away. Some of us, I guess, are very, very... Well, actually, some of us are guilty of quite a few. And we're probably not going to change either. They could ramp up the markup on a couple of these products, and we'd still keep coming back. Hint, wine. All right, phone number is 836-0590. That's 836-0590. Toll free is 877-590-KLBJ. Can you listen online? More than likely, yes. Go to 590KLBJ.com. Click on that icon and put your head down. You can do that chat box thing as well. Go to 590KLBJ.com. Click on the OLS chat box, whatever that is. You will see some preppy pictures, and you are in. If you would like to download the show, that's possible. Go to 590KLBJ.com. There is a podcast there, and more than likely it is free. You can also download the show via iTunes, and I'm told on your iPhone as well, and who knows? Somewhere, somehow, there could be a phone app out there. The Postal Service is giving you great news. They expect to lose $6 billion this year. That loss is slightly less. It's probably 50, 75 cents less than the $7 billion they had been expecting to lose. Last year, just to show you how well this is progressing, last year, the Postal Service lost $3.8 billion. So if you really wanted to, and you don't have to go that deep into your business textbooks, you might notice that the losses are almost doubling every year. Oh, well, what the heck? Let's keep going. Let's keep going. If you haven't heard, the Big Lots store in South Austin there's a 19-year-old now in custody, a 15-year-old in custody, a 16-year-old who was shot dead, pointing a gun at the cops coming out of the back of a Big Lots store. This was on Friday. Was it Friday morning? I guess it was Friday morning. Now, the next issues will be the videotape. Did the cars have the videotape? Whatever the videotape shows. I've been told the videotape shows the person coming out with a gun pointed. That's what I've been told. So that goes to show you about what Art Acevedo has said on this show numerous times about how important those videotapes are. Not even just public opinion. All right, the most ludicrous markups. Let's see, number 10 on the list is, who cares about this one? Pre-cut vegetables and fruits. So what? 40% markup. Who would do that? That's what restaurants are for. I don't know about that. Forget that one. Number 9, hotel in-room movies. Yeah, I know. You're watching the Disney Channel. Yeah, sure you are. 200% markup. I'll bet you there's a greater markup for the porn than there is the Disney Channel movies. Let's see, number 8. Greeting cards, 200% markup. Look, the card thing is a female deal, isn't it? For some reason, there's something about women are able to pick out cards. I mean, for a guy, an average guy, there's no greater nightmare than trying to pick out a card. It's, I don't know. We're incapable. it's painful. So greeting cards have a 200% markup. What does a greeting card cost? $6, $5? Wine, 300%. Yeah. And so, take it up to 1,000%. I'm still coming back. Let's see. $5 wholesale for a bottle of wine and charge the customer $25. Look, we've all been there. I realize most of you don't drink at all, right? Yeah. But you've been through that before. You get a good wine in a restaurant, and you'll maybe shop around a little bit and just laugh at yourself for what you paid per glass. It's, 400%? 300% markup on wine. Coffee is a 300% markup. According to this finance page, it says it's common to pay a markup of 300% or more for coffee. Even those huge profit margins still may not keep your neighborhood coffee shop in business. Why is that, do you think? Why do you think that is? The top 5 you're guilty of all across the board.
One piece of advice for everyone. You have a right to be offended. You also have the right to change the channel, leave the room, or press an opposing view. Everyone's an idiot, and you're included.
Jeff Ward on News Radio 590 KLBJ.
Phone number is 836-0590, toll-free 877-590-KLBJ. Newsweek.com says Sarah Palin says a new group of conservative women will rise up to protect their cubs. She says a mama grizzly is a woman with common sense who rises up to protect her children. Oh, because the rest of us don't. You can only be a mama grizzly and do that. Everyone else doesn't care about their kids. Don, you're on KLBJ.
Jeff.
Don.
I would like to suggest that the reason Rick Perry is doing so well is because he's not doing anything. I think there's something to be said for a governor who doesn't really do a lot, which evidently they thought of a long time ago because they put it into our Constitution.
Exactly. One night when I don't sleep, I tried to look that up, and I think somebody can correct me. I think that Florida might be the only state with, quote, a weaker governor. I mean, not meaning the governor itself, but in terms of what the governor can do. I think it's in the bottom 3, that's for certain.
Yeah, and another thing is that whenever a politician comes at you and saying that they have a plan and we can do better, generally you should turn around and run.
Well, yeah. I see. It's funny, Don. I have the same rule, and of course I'm the minority on this. I maintain the same thing when a politician says, I'll create jobs. I would tell you to grab your briefcase and run, but most people seem to like that stuff.
Oh, yeah. In fact, I think the fact that Texas is doing so well in jobs now is not because the government did anything.
Right.
Assertively, they did it negatively by not taxing and regulating. And that was just an attraction for people with jobs.
Right. No, that's right. If you ask people about Rick Perry, they usually can't say anything, and the only thing they'll come back with is a policy that never became law, and that was his idea on the HPV vaccine.
Right.
And that never even happened. It cracks me up because that never even happened. It's what most people say did happen.
Yeah, and so that's another thing is whenever he does try to do something stupid like that, he does it in a way that's stupid, and everybody says no, just go away.
Well, I'm not sure I entirely agree that he's done nothing because, see, I care about economics and all that stuff. The rest of it, I don't need somebody in your bedroom. But I'm not quite sure he's done nothing because he's created 2, I say, corporate welfare funds that are, in my opinion, as the minority here, is everything wrong with politics, and that is this enterprise fund, this emerging fund that he's outed today as, $16 million of that went to people who donated, the highest donors to him. And so I do think he's done something. At the same time, there are other things he's held on that were probably pretty smart moves for the taxpayers. But there's not a whole lot to do. Really. Now, we could say you have say over an execution to a certain extent. That's kind of a big deal. And I asked him about that one time on the show a few years ago, and I thought he gave a very good answer. He was perfectly willing to accept that he believes the process is working, and he said he's completely confident the state of Texas has not executed on his watch an innocent person. So he snapped to that. He owned it. He gladly owned it. But that is a big deal. Okay, the markups. There's got to be stuff that's more than this. Let's see. I'm not even talking about pre-cut vegetables and fruits. That's stupid. Number 9, hotel in room movies. The markup is 200%. 8 is greeting cards, 200%. I don't know. I've always wondered about the greeting card business. I read a business plan of what's the big company in North Texas? Hallmark? Yeah. Interesting. I know I'm not interested in cards, but I was interested in the model. Number 7, 300% markup is wine. Yes. Tonight it'll be $3.50 at least. 6 is coffee, 300%. Man, those are some amazing margins right there. I was surprised your coffee was 300%. I'm a little bit surprised by that. But I don't go to Starbucks, so I don't know. I mean, is Starbucks, honestly, is it that different than anywhere else? I mean, really? Let's see. 5. 5 is this is stupid. 400% markup on the hotel mini bar. Well, who isn't guilty of being dumb enough to do that at one time in their life? Some of us, when we were in college, may have had a few issues. You learn that one the hard way. 300 to 400% are common at hotel mini bars. And you usually don't tap into the mini bar until you're already drunk. Till you're drunk enough to not know any better. Till you're drunk enough to convince yourself that somehow, some way, that last scotch in a little bitty bottle for $18 at least, you need it at 3:30 in the morning to go to sleep. I know most of you are perfect. Let's see, 4, brand name drugs, 200 to 3,000% markup. If I didn't think it'd bore people, we would talk about markups on drugs. There's not enough competition. I'm pretty certain that's going to be step number 1, but nobody cares. Okay, it says some estimates put the markup of brand name drugs at 600,000% when compared to the cost of active ingredients. Well, I don't know if that's fair. I'm not sure that's fair to use it that way. The cost of brand name prescriptions has increased in the past year nearly 10%. Generics have dropped. The average annual drug cost for a person taking 3 generic medications decreased by $51, while someone taking 3 brand name prescription drugs in the past year saw their cost increase $706. Okay. Nobody wants to fight about that. 3 movie theater popcorn, 1,275% markup. Yeah, how much about the Milk Duds? What about the Pepsi? Like a 16-ounce soft drink is $4. What about DKR Memorial Stadium bottled water markup? Movie theater popcorn, 1,275%. Bottled water, 4,000% markup. Isn't that a beautiful model? I admire the person who convinced investors to buy the bottled water. I don't know who it was, where it was. You, sir, or ma'am, you're something else. 4,000% markup. Text messages, number 1, 6,000% markup. According to the Chicago Tribune, outgoing 160-character text messages on a cell phone cost users 20 cents, while it only cost the carriers 0.3 of a cent for 160 characters. Even if you're paying 10 cents per text, there you go. If the text data, well, think about this. If the text data rates applied, according to Consumers Union Policy spokesperson, a cell phone conversation, even a brief cell phone conversation, would cost you $120.
And I'm on to you. I'm on to your little foxy schemes about how you keep callers like me holding and holding and holding. And I figured out my cell phone cost me about $3 per minute. So for 1 hour, that's cost me $180 to hold. I'm going to buy my own show, I think. And that way, I won't have to be on hold with you, because for $100 per call, I can buy 30 minutes of time, and I won't have screeners, and I won't have, just have somebody answer the phone. And
start your own show, Barbara.
I did want to.
Start your own show and save the money.
Jeff Ward on News Radio 590 KLBJ.
I told you that, well, look, I've been outed. That was a long time ago, that call. I was awfully nice to her. Maybe many of you feel the same way. Let's do the math here. This lady accused, if I remember correctly, she was accusing me of putting people on hold on purpose. I don't know, somehow she thought I was making money off of that.
You don't feel bad about keeping me on hold for 1 hour?
You mean, what am I supposed to feel bad about? You've got to be kidding me. I took that well. I don't remember all of that. That's kind of funny. Her accusation was that I guess I made money somehow, or she just thought I was so mean that I would do it on purpose to drive up your cost. Now, it wasn't that long ago. What was her cost for calling the show? $100? And she stayed on hold for, what'd she say, an hour? I don't know what it was. You can have whatever clues you want, lady. You just paid $180 to sit on hold on my radio show, and you're going to lecture me? Oh, now come on, Jeff. What was that called for? What was she lecturing me about?
Since I've been holding so long, I think you owe me the courtesy of letting me talk, okay? Since I've been holding...
But that didn't go over too well.
Sit on your hands for a minute. I've been holding for 50...
Wow. What was the first part? It was $3 a minute for her?
I figured out my cell phone cost me about $3 per minute. So for 1 hour, that's cost me $180 to hold.
Straight to my pocket. You betcha. Then she was going to use that same logic and buy her own show. Well, what was my advice to that? Do it?
This is so fair. What is fair about keeping somebody on hold?
What do you think this is? This is a radio show.
It's supposed to be fair and balanced, but you're not even fair.
It's supposed to be a radio show. Oh, I bet I got the hate mail from the blue hairs that day. You're supposed to be polite. Yeah, well, you're not supposed to be stupid either.
That's what your station is all about. It's train wreck.
Thank you for proving that. Oh, that's harsh. Come on, Jeff. What was that line again?
That's what your station is all about. It's train wreck.
Thank you for proving that. Oh. Wow. The reason why that came up is this list of markup says the text messages, the markup is 6,000%. So it apparently made Thomas snap to the call that accused me, which is really him, of stealing money from people when they call the show. It is Brian. You're on KLBJ.
Hey, bud. Good show. Always listen.
Thanks.
Hey, you have me on hold for 20 minutes, so I'm going to take my liberty.
That's right.
Yeah, I'm going to take my liberties now. Hey, look, I'm going to give you something about Rick Perry, and usually I've talked to you before. Usually I call it a joking manner, but this is really not a joke.
Rick Perry and the ETF fund, I'll give you a little bit of history. 30-second science lesson. There was a company recently in Austin that developed patented technology to measure microchips and anything in the semiconductor industry, let's just say that, even the solar energy industry. This company did fairly well and needed some capital back in 2009, and they were denied capital on 2 claims toward the ETF. Subsequently, the company went out of business and was picked up for pennies on the dollar by an Israeli company. And so my point to saying that is we had technology that was developed in Austin that had defeated patents from multiple companies, domestic and foreign, and was a sound technology and actually going to lead the way in microchip manufacturing and semiconductor industry manufacturing for the next probably 10 to 15 years, called vacuum ultraviolet technology. And we let that slip through our fingers along with 100 jobs. So his policy is directly responsible, and these kickbacks are directly responsible for kicking jobs out of the state of Texas and kicking part of our gross domestic product out of the state of Texas.
He, of course, and the people that believe in these sorts of policies, and it's not just him. I mean, this is most politicians. This is how they get elected. Their argument, I won't even use him, their argument is, well, Brian, I don't know about that, but we did create and save others. And see, to the 0.05% of us would say, it's not your place either way. Get out. It is Jason. You're on KLBJ.
Oh, Jeff, thank God you finally answered. The meter's running here, man.
I'm sorry. That's another 800 for us.
He's a jack.
I gotta ask you, Jeff. What $3 a minute? What year was that phone call? 1992.
It was a year and a half ago, Thomas says.
Okay. Oh, well, all joking aside, actually, I was going to call and crack wise to you with a pithy comment. But the more I thought about it, the more I thought, wow, this could be real. As far as the Postal Service goes, other than completely closing it down for being a money hole, worse than a boat, what we could do, and this is just an idea, have President Obama, who was supported by Steve Jobs, call up Steve Jobs and say, hey, Steve, why don't you come to the White House, have a few drinks, have a few beers, He gets in there with Steve Jobs, gets a few beers down him. Steve loosens up a little bit and say, hey, Steve, just on a napkin, right now, what you would do to fix the post office. I mean,
yeah,
really?
Well, he would do it. Now, I don't know if he drinks because he lost a liver or something, but
for real.
No, he would absolutely. Of course, it would be fixed. You know what? Probably the fix would be, well, there go all the people. Here's an app. Done.
No. This is the whole thing. I've already thought this out. Steve Jobs, I guarantee you, he would sit there and make it so that there's some kind of Postal Service phone app for the iPhone or for iPod. Give us half the rights, and all of a sudden, everybody's using this app. Nobody uses a standard post office anymore, and we're making money off the Postal Service.
Well, that's the way, to your point, that's the way a lot of really good business people would handle things, but that's not the way. Remember, you never get reelected for firing anyone. So he would never be, nor would anyone else ever be invited in, because a lot of normal people who are very good at creating efficient models, they would offer up a solution which would mean, wow, people lose their job. Now, find a politician that advocates someone losing their job.
Tell you what, I'm ready to reach through the radio and slap you upside the head.
Jeff Ward on News Radio 590 KLBJ.
I was on hold so long I was just off daydreaming somewhere.
Oh, were you adding up the amount it was costing you?
Well, I was going to say that there's an issue with somebody who's holding for an hour, but I can't really say that because I've been holding for a while myself to make my point. I really wanted to say that I thought that the stats on the pharmaceutical drugs is really bogus. I mean, if we're going to do it on cost of material as far as markup, that's crazy.
Yeah, I thought that was lame, too.
Yeah, it's all about R&D, and really the pharmaceutical companies are damned if they do, damned if they don't, I mean, they put all this money into research, and FDA is constantly on their back, and then the drug goes out, and people, are suing out the wazoo, and, So
I read. I think you're right. I mean, when I read how they compared this was, that's pretty flimsy. But I read one time it was real business oriented and said, I mean, the basic argument was if you wanted to see the cost of drugs go down, you would in effect do away with the FDA.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, and you would take the chance that this drug is put out there for millions of people, and you take that chance that there may be a side effect that's detrimental.
It would get to you faster, and it would be less expensive, but buyer beware.
Right. And the thing is that there's, people scream the loudest regarding pharmaceuticals, but do you know how much markup there is in a pair of glasses? I mean, it's like...
Okay, really?
Yes, for a pair of glasses. I mean, if you're talking about... And
the lenses or the frames themselves?
The frames themselves. I mean, the lenses are bad enough, but the frames themselves. And so, here is something that could totally impact your quality of life, your sight. Nobody bitches about the cost of glasses. Have you ever bought a pair of glasses and you have paid $200 for a frame? Come on.
Yeah, I've never heard anybody complain about greeting cards either, and that made this list. I found that one interesting.
Right.
The only thing, I don't know the pharmaceutical business all that well. I mean, my standard question would be, first and foremost, is it really competitive? That would be the question of every industry. That's where we should always start. Are we doing all we can to encourage and foster competition?
Well, I guess you need to look at the number of pharmaceutical companies that are out there. I mean, I think it's very competitive amongst them.
Yeah.
I think that the playing field is so diverse. So, if you were just talking about one therapeutic area, and the competition would be so narrowed down, but I mean, it's so diverse out there. Because I do think there's a lot of competition amongst themselves.
Well, it's also funny. I think if you look at this list of the markups, take text messaging out of there, even pharmaceutical drugs out of there. A lot of these areas, consumption is probably up. Coffee, I think wine the trend is back up. So apparently they're not charging us enough. Right?
That's right.
That's the fundamental business principle that it's certainly not deterring my wine consumption. Coffee consumption, is it down dramatically, really, across the board? I mean, just the consumption of coffee, I'll bet it's not down. I don't know about greeting cards. Who cares? What's the point? You ever see that Seinfeld episode? Elaine gives Jerry the greeting card. This is the difference between men and women. He gets the greeting card, and she gives it to him, or not, a birthday card. I think it's a birthday card. Like, she comes over later that day or the next day. She looks in the trash can. It's in the trash can. She goes ballistic. And he says, what's the problem? I read it. But you threw it away. He goes, well, yeah, I read it. It was very nice. But you threw it away. Right. I read it. Women will save Christmas cards for years from other people. A guy, you read it, you got the point, you throw it away. I'm not sure how many people had a chance to see Thong Man. Was it yesterday or Saturday morning? I think it may have been yesterday. I see Thong Man going west on Enfield. And that's as close as Thong Man has been to being fully nude. He's not wearing a thong anymore. I don't even know what they call these. I really don't know what the term is, and I hope nobody should ever do this. But it's just a string. I mean, the Thong Man he's in dental floss, man. He's out there. And it was a fairly cool morning. So, usually it's understandable the Thong Man goes all butt cheek when it's 105, but he's nude. I mean, I don't know what's happening on the front side of that. Don't really want to know. But I have never seen Thong Man in a string. And there he was, pedaling his little bike with his tan back, stepping up out of his seat to go up that little short hill at Enfield, and there it is, America. Just a string.
woman is not a myth, you son of a...
What the hell are you so hostile for?
Because you brainwashed our dog.
Hey, listen, sister. Look, all I did was expose Brian to a different way of thinking. He embraced it on his own, Lois.
Well, after Rush opened my eyes, I am seeing the world in a whole new way now. To quote a famous troublemaker, I have a dream.
Jeff Ward on News Radio 590 KLBJ.
I never watched the show, but Thomas said, listen to this. Rush Limbaugh, I assume he was playing himself last night on called The Family Guy. I know. I'm supposed to watch. How long does the show last? 30 minutes? An hour? It's too long. It's too long.
Wow. Never thought I'd set foot inside Republican National Headquarters. This is amazing.
And it gets better, Brian. Come on. I'm going to introduce you to some of my pals here. Brian, meet George W. Bush. Hey, Georgie.
Uncle Rush!
Hey, whoo, you are getting heavy.
I know. I'm 64 3/4.
You sure are, slugger.
Hey, you got one for me?
What? What are you talking about?
Oh, come on, Uncle Rush.
I don't know what you're talking about, really.
Come on.
Oh, wait a second.
Yeah, yippee! Thanks, Uncle Rush. Don't tell my dad.
Hey there, Rush. How you doing?
Hey, John. Hey, I'd like you to meet my friend Brian. John McCain.
Gosh, it sure is a pleasure, Mr. McCain. How do you two know each other?
Oh, Rush and I used to solve mysteries together back in the day.
Did he talk about it much today? As usual, people take things far too seriously.
Does
They're
this mean
upset.
I'll never see you again?
Oh, I'll be around. Wherever there's a rich white guy in need of another tax break, I'll be there. Wherever there's a brain-dead woman in need of expensive life support her husband doesn't want, I'll be there. Wherever there's a country that needs to be invaded for reasons that don't exactly pan out, I'll be there too. Oh, yes, I will be around.
So, Texas, Oklahoma, it's, I'm really liking to own this, the analysis I had last week. The less dumb team will win. And it happened. It almost happened, as you know, that in the end, Oklahoma almost was dumber than Texas. But Texas had to make another mistake, and that would be the end of it. The last 2 minutes of that game were shocking. The first 7 minutes, I know this is going to bore a lot of people, Oklahoma had almost 140 yards in 7 minutes. That's hard to do. I mean, that's pretty impressive. So you take the first 7 and the final 3, and it was bizarre. The result probably fit. No argument about that. But for all the crazy things that Texas did that day, Oklahoma tried in just a few short minutes to do it themselves. All right, the phone numbers, you'll need them. 836-0590. That's 836-0590. Toll free, 877-590-KLBJ. Can you listen online? More than likely, yes. Go to 590KLBJ.com. Click on that icon and put your head down. You can do that chat box thing as well. Go to 590KLBJ.com. Click on the OLS chat box, whatever that is. You will see some preppy pictures and you are in. If you'd like to download the show, it's possible. Go to 590KLBJ.com. There was a podcast there. More than likely, it is free. You can also download the show via iTunes. And I'm told on your iPhone as well. And who knows, somewhere, somehow, there could be a phone app out there. I'm almost afraid to bring this up. Senator Jim DeMint. Now, I'm not sure if he gets credit for saying this at this particular rally, but he said if someone is openly homosexual, they shouldn't be teaching in the classroom, and he holds the same position on an unmarried woman who is sleeping with her boyfriend. She shouldn't be in the classroom either. These are teachers. Teachers. Got that? Teachers. Well, okay. He says, everyone would come up to me and whisper that I shouldn't back down. They don't want government purging their rights and their freedoms to religion. I'm not sure what he means by that. That should be a priority of ours. Apparently, we have everything else solved, and so we don't need unmarried teachers who may be sleeping with their boyfriend or girlfriend. I realize that's an impossible concept, isn't it? Should not be in the classroom. That, I think we all can agree, would be a good use of our time, energy, and expense.
Jeff Ward on News Radio 590 KLBJ.
I feel like I need some duct tape to keep my head together from exploding.
Trees grow from Republican sod, and everyone prays to a proper right-wing God.
Republican Catholics?
Yes, indeed, there are.
Republican Muslims?
Well, let's not go too far.
No Muslims?
There are too many tall buildings.
They've all abortions, late or early. It's a sin we can't abide.
What if you find a fetus left abandoned?
We just take it and we jam it back inside.
Jeff Ward on News Radio 590 KLBJ.
Phone number is 836-0590. That's 836-0590. Toll free 877-590-KLBJ. That's the Family Guy last night. Sounds like a pretty funny show. People say good things about it. I still can't sit down. Sorry. The post office. Hey, things are looking up. Last year, the Postal Service lost $3.8 billion. Naturally, demand is down, so they raised the cost. Got that? Demand is down. Raise your cost. Well, the good news is that they were projecting a $7 billion loss, so this is slightly less than expected. Remember, everyone, demand goes down, raise your prices. It's fundamental. It's page 4. Norm, you're on KLBJ.
Hey, Jeff. I do have a twofold solution to this post office thing. One, if you go out to anybody's mailbox, over half of what we get is garbage, which is paid for through bulk rate. It's real simple. Eliminate the bulk rate. You eliminate the bulk rate, you know your political heroes are going to keep sending it no matter what price it is because we're paying for it. And then, all the new post offices they're building unnecessarily in all these little towns with 50 people. When you drive across the country and every little town has a brand new post office. Stop building post offices. Between those two things, it's all over.
But you can't do that. You can't be in political office and let people go.
Oh, you don't have to let people go.
Oh.
You just don't build new post offices because they're replacing old ones.
Right.
Unnecessarily.
Yeah, I know. When demand is down, the last thing you would do is ramp up as if demand was up.
Even in the city of Austin, I mean, you've got brand new post offices that are unnecessarily built. And the thing with the bulk rate, the bulk rate mail is also what is causing all the mail carrier packs to be extra heavy. All the lower back strains that are sending them out on medical disability at 50 years old.
Is that true?
Absolutely.
Really?
Yeah, my mother-in-law retired at like 50 years old.
Wow.
She's a mail carrier. And I don't say this lightly because yes, absolutely. And I don't say it lightly either because it would affect me negatively in my business because we use the bulk rate.
But if they limited that, you would take your business elsewhere, and the losses would go even higher.
Go. Where are you going to go?
Well, no, I mean, I'm pointing out.
All you're going to do is pay more.
Right.
They're just going to pay more, and that eliminates it.
Yeah, I hear you. People always take this personally. It doesn't mean somebody's bad. Doesn't mean somebody's necessarily not trying. Doesn't even mean that somebody's doing a bad job. But an inefficient model is an inefficient model. And it doesn't take a genius when you demand is down. You either stimulate demand or you reduce the cost to meet the demand. And doubling your losses probably isn't doing. I know someone's going to call. This gets ridiculous. Well, what about a little town? Okay. I'm pretty certain the losses of $7 billion weren't just because of some little town. But the upside is it's less than $7 billion. So we should feel better about things. Much better. Let me be clear about this, because every time it comes up, hey, don't take it personally. Okay? You didn't make the model. It's the way it goes sometimes. For a variety of reasons. Everybody has a shelf life, and free enterprise, it's a beautiful bloody nose out there. We all have to adapt. Just the way it goes. It's there are plenty of smart people who are involved in things that are rendered obsolete. That's the way it goes. It's a beautiful thing, too. We all get it sooner or later. But what's amazing is this. I know you're going to say, well, the Constitution says, okay, point well taken. Nowhere does it mandate that we lose $7 billion. That just doesn't seem like a great idea. I know. GM got a bailout. Okay, and that makes it a great idea. You bet. $7 billion, man. You're trying to raise the price and you can't get it, so there are not many options. There are not very many options at that point. Walt, you're on KLBJ.
Hey, I was going to ask you about your statement about on the post office lower revenues, so they raise the cost. Why is it so hard for everybody to understand that shouldn't apply for taxes too? You know, when tax revenues go down, everybody says, "Oh, raise the tax rate."
Right.
But there is some common sense in to say, "Hey, maybe if you do lower the tax rate, revenues will go up because maybe people will work harder knowing that they're going to get to keep more money."
That's an argument I have with people. I think that's a downside to these people who advocate consumption taxes. I would caution people, the last thing you want to do is you want to discourage demand. That's not a healthy proposition.
Yeah, it just seems like and there is a point where, hey, too low a tax is obviously at 0%. You're not going to get any revenue. But there is a point where, hey, if you raise taxes too much, you aren't going to necessarily get more revenue just because of human nature.
Right. But the taxes in the Postal Service seem to have it in common that no matter what, it's going to be collected.
That's because, Jeff, the common thread there is it's the government.
Nobody ever gets reelected by saying employ fewer people.
Yeah, exactly right. Yep.
You know, I mean, doesn't mean you're bad. Here we go. The explanation doesn't mean you're bad. Doesn't mean you're a bad person. Doesn't mean you're doing a bad job. Doesn't mean you're not trying hard. Just the model seems to be slightly flawed. As in a dinosaur. How about this? Mostly a dinosaur. I'm sure there is some old lady somewhere standing there, stuffing stuff, putting mail in a mailbox. You bet. Nathan, you're on KLBJ.
Hey, Jeff. So you mentioned the constitutional provision. It's kind of interesting. As I recall, it does not say Congress will run a post office. It says Congress will provide for post roads and post offices.
Yeah, to establish post offices and post roads, I think.
Yeah, well, if it just says established, well, it settled that hundreds of years ago, and it can go home. It doesn't have to keep them running. All it had to do was establish them.
Yeah, right.
I mean,
exactly.
Like the university, well, it's kind of like the universities, right? It says, it'll create them, but it doesn't say anything about giving them billions of dollars.
Yes, it doesn't mandate that we lose $7 billion.
No, absolutely not. And the model. I mean, the post office. Like you said, it's the model. It's the problem. The big cost, I'm sure, is the last mile. The fact that they go to the door in every house in most neighborhoods in the country. Of course, anything built in the last 20 years, it's not, or 15 years,
right?
Is not that case, not that way anymore, and they're trying to cut costs that way. But because they have that fixed cost of going out to the door, it doesn't matter whether they're putting one letter in there or swinging by to see if I've got one. the cost is essentially the same to them to do that. That does put them in this oddball situation. And like the other businessman who called in said, there's a market through the mail that is pretty much irreplaceable even yet. And they are in a position where I think they could probably survive this. You've got the supply-demand curve, right? You want to beat the peak of the parabola. And I think that raising prices sometimes is the right answer, and given, their weirdness with this having to distribute everywhere. But, I think,
But the answer is given. Demand keeps going down. And you keep losing. The losses keep getting greater. There is no upside here. There's no little arrow pointing anywhere that gives anybody any indication that there's anything. If you're just looking at little things on a graph, there is nothing that says it's a good idea.
Jeff Ward on News Radio 590 KLBJ.
Phone numbers 836-0590. That's 836-0590. Toll free 877-590-KLBJ. For all the talk about the economy and politicians creating jobs and whatever fund, stimulus fund, enterprise fund, tech fund, whatever is created by your political heroes, which most of the public seems to really favor, the answer really lies in an educated population. The marketplace will apparently take care of itself. Well, how could we say that? Well, it's pretty easy. There's a list today. CNNMoney.com has labeled the smartest cities in America. And Austin did well. That's why it'll succeed in spite of them. People go, well, how is it that this market can buck the trend? Because the people will buck the trend. Let's see, the top 10 in terms of percent, and I assume this is the city of Austin, is the only thing measured here. Percent with degrees, college degrees. Washington at 47%. San Francisco at 43.5%. San Jose at 43%. Raleigh, North Carolina at 42%. Boston at 42%. Austin at 39%. Then Minneapolis, Denver, Seattle, New York are the areas, metro areas, with the highest percentage of degrees. Then the areas with the lowest would be Riverside, California, Las Vegas, Memphis, Tampa, San Antonio. Tampa. I don't know about the degrees. There may be a correlation between college degrees and the size of the butt. There are, how do I say this politely? Okay, I won't. There seem to be a lot of fat people in Tampa.
I don't think that's appropriate, Jeff.
I couldn't help but notice. Sorry. San Antonio, Louisville, New Orleans. Oh, that's shocking. No way. Detroit. That's shocking. Orlando and Cleveland. Those would be the areas with the fewest, percentage-wise, of college degrees. Okay. I doubt if too many people would argue with too many of those. Minneapolis, that's interesting. Don't know anything about it. It always does well on these lists. And I guess you've got to be pretty smart if it's 14 below zero. It's supposed to be a pretty cool town. So I hope so. You better study a lot. Think about that. See, and these areas like Washington and New York, those are completely concentrated in certain areas. Austin might have them spread out more than a lot of other places. But, you've got areas of Washington where there's certainly no college degrees, and you have other areas where it's completely full of college degrees. Austin and San Jose and Raleigh probably have them spread out. All right, 836-0590, toll free 877-590-KLBJ. By the way, Apple is expected to pass Exxon as the most valuable company in the world. And that was done in about, 9 years? Right? 8 to 10 years, probably. It's a pretty quick run. Hey, Jeff, you're on KLBJ.
Hey, Jeff.
Hi.
You were shouting out about Minneapolis. I came down about 12 years ago from there, and I wanted to help explain why I think the education rate is very high.
Well, it's supposed to be a great place, too. Is that true?
Yes. I lived right in uptown Minneapolis, which is very much like South Congress, Austin, Texas, with the art, the food,
the music. Isn't the music supposed to be really good? Yeah, I've heard that, too.
The gay and lesbian lifestyle. It's just very open-minded, cool part of the Midwest, certainly. Kind of like Austin is compared to other places in Texas. Minneapolis is kind of like the little part of the Midwest that's really cool, and then it kind of gets farmland.
I've heard that. Now, how does that work when it's 15 below zero, though?
Well, there are a couple things that we do. One of them, it speaks to what you were talking about, is we study. I mean, it's very much a Midwest thing that you graduate high school, college, whatever. I mean, it's ingrained in our upbringing, and everybody just does it. You know, there's no question about, a failure in your family would be dropping out of high school or what have you. So it's a very, very high on the list of priorities in the Midwest to graduate and make a living,
Okay.
In the winter, you study hard and you do very well, or drink a lot.
Yeah.
So as long as you can get to school on Monday and get your 3.0 or better, then you got it made. It's winter.
Okay, I've always heard those things. I'm sure I've flown through Minneapolis. I just don't know if I've ever been there. But every one of these lists, if you see Austin on there, it's usually close by.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's why I came down here, because they're very similar, the music and the art and the people, except no winter. I just couldn't do another 20 below zero winter ever again.
Is 105 degrees... I mean, it's hot as hell here for from June through the end of September. Is that more tolerable than the cold?
Absolutely. And
okay.
Here's why. I have an air conditioner in my truck, in my office, and in my home. So the few minutes that you're between those, I don't even ride my Harley in the summer most of the time because it's way too hot to get out.
But you can never. I've always wanted. You can never get warm, right?
No, and I've had friends that got frostbite, lost the tips of their ears. Just then there's another thing that my father-in-law suffered from, in that seasonal affective disorder. The sun comes in at such a low rate that you don't get that vitamin D or
now,
B.
Don't
or
they
whatever.
say that? This could be complete bogus, but don't they say that about places like Seattle where they have these higher suicide rates? It's just because people don't see the sunlight enough?
It's proven. In fact, he used to have to. They were from Bismarck, North Dakota, the capital of North Dakota, and he would have to read a book at night by his bed, next to a full spectrum light, so that he would get the vitamin D or whatever that is that comes from. And that's why these southern climates, like nearer the equator, are much better for you, especially in those long winter months where the sun comes in at such a sharp angle.
Well, I mean, almost 40% of the people there have a college degree. That Tampa and Orlando too. Something about Florida is just off.
I'm sorry, I'm going to go here, and if people want to cuss me out, I'll give you my email address.
Jeff Ward on News Radio 590 KLBJ. Jeff Ward on News Radio 590 KLBJ.
Phone number is 836-0590. That's 836-0590. Toll free is 877-590-KLBJ. MSN Money page has produced the products with the highest markups. Number 10 on the list is canned fruits and vegetables. That doesn't matter to anyone. Who cares? Number 9, hotel in-room movies, 200% markup. 7, 300% markup. No, greeting cards is number 8 at 200% markup. 7, wine, a 300% markup. So what? If it's good, we'll do anything. Coffee, a 300% markup. That's surprising. The Number 4 is brand name drugs, 200 to 3,000% markup. That's a little much. 2 is bottled water, a 600% markup. And according to this, text messaging has the highest markup. In fact, they say in a short conversation, if you use the pricing of text messaging, a phone call would cost you almost $200. If you were, I guess the way to look at it is if you were to text the phone call out, it would be something like $150 to $200 per short conversation. And remember that urban legend or that internet rumor that your what was it we were going to text? Oh, email. It was the deal about taxing the email. Was it a penny or 2 cents? I remember that day. People go, oh, I know it's true. Yes, it is. It is. That thing had some steam. In fact, it had so much steam that day, people were calling in saying, well, it's not that bad of an idea. Okay. Where did that start? It'd be interesting to follow those one time. Somebody in an office somewhere, tired of downloading porn and playing fantasy football, just starts one of those for the heck of it. See how fast it spreads out. Mike, you're on KLBJ.
Jeff, back to the good old Postal Service. I know you love to discuss it. But I think the problem with the Postal Service and every other government entity and government employee type job is the fact that years ago we allowed them to unionize. And I don't think there's anything more destructive to our economy than today organized labor. It just,
Here's a way to look at this. Let's take a look at this. If we, I don't know, we're not really represented by anybody, but if somebody said today, somebody in power, nobody in politics would do it, but let's just pretend somebody said, listen, we're downsizing this thing dramatically. We're letting a lot of you go, and we're going to break up your union. And the threat back was, we are going to walk off the job tomorrow at noon.
And so what?
I know. I was going to ask what. I mean, because certainly in some areas we would feel some pain short term.
Do you remember what happened years ago when UPS went out on strike and they said, well, we're going to go out on strike because we don't. I have friends that work for FedEx, and UPS ended up hurting themselves going out on strike because they lost market shares, which they never gained back.
Right.
And if the Postal Service threatened to go out on strike, so what? Who would be affected by it? Somebody, like you said before, in the business model, somebody would pick up that slack.
Yeah, see, I was trying to think while you were talking, what department, what organization out there, union organization could say, that's it, we're walking off tomorrow at noon, and we as consumers would feel the least amount of pain in the shortest amount of time possible. It might just be the Postal Service.
It probably is the Postal Service, Jeff.
Yeah. No, again, I know a lot of people are going to take that personally. I don't know how you don't take it personally, but that might be the area. I'm trying to think of others. I remember when the air traffic controllers, I was actually how old was I? I was not very old. I was in Europe playing soccer. And when I was supposed to come back, I remember reading the paper. Yes, I read the paper. It was when the air traffic controllers went on strike during Ronald Reagan's days. And he said, really? See ya. What would happen? No one will do it. Like you said, you hear every 10 minutes, every 5 minutes you can hear a political ad, and they always talk about jobs, make jobs. But imagine if somebody said, oh, you're quitting? Really? Okay. Later. Okay. But you're not going to be reelected doing that. No way. Woodstock, you're on KLBJ.
I was going to say more, Mr. Ward, one of the best turnarounds as far as profit making for any place of business is the soda fountain. They're stocked by syrup, which for about 5 gallons of syrup, every time you fill up a cup, it's going to cost you about maybe 1.5 to maybe 2 cents a glass. Cups cost you maybe about 25 cents total, and you're turning around and selling them for anywhere between 99 cents and $1.70. I think the markup on that's pretty sweet.
Yeah. Man, I don't know. I'm sure it is. I'm sure it is. I think soft drinks in our break room here are about $8.
I wouldn't doubt that in the least. Yeah, out of the machines, it's even worse.
Well, the reason why they do that is because most people here just steal stuff and they'll break into stuff, and so they have to recoup their cost. Because if you leave anything or you have anything near our break room here, if it's not a syringe that someone's had stuck in their arm, they'll just kick in the machine and steal it.